Hello, my name is Kevin and welcome to the Love Decanter channel. So today I'm going to talk about mallet decanters, or alternatively known as broad-based tapered decanters. Now, I think most people call them mallet, but Andy McConnell calls them broad-based tapered. So yeah, I've got one here. I've got a nice little small one. So it's like a tapered one, but it blossoms out about here, and it's got a broader base. So the tapered ones are usually about 2/3 the width of this. So yeah, I don't know if I like broad-based tapered. I like mallet. This is like something. The mallets that it's talking about would be the mallets that masons use or used to use with their chisels. They would be wooden, and they would just be like shaped like this. Yeah. So anyway, so I like mallet, but broad-based tapers, if that's what Andy McConnell's called them. And I did check, and actually he calls them that in both of his books. And the first book's like, I think it's from the 1990s. So yeah, I'm pretty certain it's from the 1990s. So he has used that description for a long time, but I've not seen it anywhere else. We can have a look online, and I'll just prove that although Andy McConnell's book calls it that, and I have gone through a number of other books, and yeah, I can't find anybody else calling them mallets or broad-based tapers. They just seem to call them decanters. They're skipping over the name, you know, like a stone on a... Anyway, let's get on. I will show you some online, well, sales really, because I can't find proper references, because there's no proper references for this stuff. And then we will have a look at the decanters I've got. And I'm not going to do this excessively. I'm just going to show you some nice ones I have, some unusual ones. And so let's get on and have a look. So I've got a number of sales or auction houses and things showing these decanters. So this is the first one we're looking at. Scottish Antiques, my old favourite. Yeah, a lot of it is bottles. So, but they've got these decanters here that they're calling Mallet Decanter. So where do they date? They're dating all these from 1800. I've also got these. They're saying, who's this? This is the sale room. I'm not sure who this is, but anyway, 1770 to 1790. I don't know whose sale it actually is though. Oh, it's William Wallace, and they're reputable auctioneer. Does it say how much they sold? Oh, no, I think you have to join this to find out how much they actually sold for. We've got Bonhams. Yes. Those are not the same ones, are they? No, different. We've got Bonhams. They've got these two sold in 2006 for £199 and 75p. Now, that seems like a lot, okay, for a pair of decanters like this, because generally this type of decanter is probably worth, nowadays, this is 2006, but even today, it's probably only worth like £40-50. But these stand out a little bit. One, it's a pair, okay, but also 1, 2, 3, 4 neck rings. That is not normal. Someone really wanted these, or at least a couple of people did, because they pushed the price up from 1810. They're dating, which is, yeah, that's a good, for this kind of cutting with this just panel cut neck and this fluted cutting, comb cutting here. That's a reasonable date. Then we've got, oh, don't get rid of the advert. This one here, which is Irish. I'm not quite sure, certain I would call it, because this does bend in a little bit at the bottom. But I quite like this. But estimate 800 to 1200 euros. But you can see the shape it's starting to look out to be. You've got these ones. These are later, 1825. And yeah, they got this curve that runs out, and it's like you've blown out the bottom half of a tapered one. But these ones are almost, I would almost say these are Prussian, because Prussian ones curve in at the bottom, and these do slightly, very slightly. And this is what I've talked about previously, looking at shapes, is that there's no real fixed shape. They blend into each other, so a slight curve in the bottom might make it Prussian, or does it, or doesn't it? You know, this is the thing. Got this one here, which is like the other one we're looking at. And how has it got a price on this? No, they're not going to tell you, but I bet it didn't sell for a lot, because this is a single one and it's only got 3 neck rings. Got this one here, another style, sold for £70. Who's this from? Martel Maids. Yeah, this is a rarer shape style, where the neck rings are not real neck rings. All they've done is cut away the surrounding glass, these panels, and so this bit here, where what looks like a neck ring is actually just the natural glass surface. And then I've got one last one here, which again, yeah, no, I think this is a broad-based taper. That does count as that. I didn't pull down any of my Irish ones. I'll have to look and see if any of them fall into that category. And if there is one, I'll pull it in. Or even if there's more, I'll just pull one in just to see. So anyway, yeah, this probably went for a lot of money because it's inscribed Court Glasgow. I don't think it's inscribed. If it'll be underneath that, and it'll be pressed into the base of it. Yeah, there's not much more here. So anyway, it does have a price here. Sold for £320. So yeah, in 2014, which is actually, for if it is a marked piece, that is a very good price. But you get the idea. This is the shape that we're looking at. So I'm starting with these 3 smaller tapered decanters, and yeah, so we've got 2 plain ones. This one has got your classic bullseye stopper. Can you see? It's in very good original condition. This hasn't been cut down to fit or anything, not very much. Well, what you'd expect for decanter of this period, so not being recut down to fit in a new decanter. It's actually quite thin. If you look at the edge here, see how thin the pouring lip is? Yeah, so this is quite a delicate decanter. It's got polished pontle mark. You can see a big bubble in it. And we've got this one. This one has a mushroom stopper. Now, this mushroom's a little bit wider, but it too appears to be entirely original. It doesn't look to have been cut down at a later date, because you've got this little rounded bit here on the corner. This is the natural glass. That would normally, if you've trimmed this, normally that would start to disappear, but that hasn't been done. And you've got this rough cut base. Let's have a look at the last one. So this one is not your classic bullseye. It's like a lozenge, but it's more round, like a. Let's show this one. This base looks like it's been polished, but it also looks like it's broken off. So I don't know what's going on with this. Can you see? Because it's not actually flat. It's kind of, so it looks like someone's chipped it out. Don't know exactly, and there's a little bit of the natural on the edge there, but less certain of this. Here's a better look at here. Yeah, that's not so good. It does have 3, so but we're looking at the shape, and yeah, this is a good decanter from that point of view. But and the wear on the base is really heavy duty ring of wear on the base of this one. Got a polished pontle mark, but that feels doubtful. But it is a nice little decanter. Looks right, but that's good. That's good. So yeah, that's how you tell anyway. But these are smaller mallets, and these ones would tend to be earlier than this one because of this cutting. It's not necessarily true, but if you were just kind of like trying to fit them into time periods, that's how you do it. You would say these are earlier than this one, especially as this one's got a mushroom, and mushrooms didn't really come in until 1790, so it's probably not earlier than that. The shape is a mallet, but which is earlier than the later Prussian ones that come on. So there's quite a lot of these with this type of cutting, and these panels like this are Prussian shaped. So it probably is in that 1790 to 1800 period when mushrooms came in at 1790. This cutting came in at 1790. So it's, but the shape is a earlier shape. I've got two large mallets here, both fairly plain. I've had a really good look at the stoppers on these ones to see are they original or not. This one I'm very happy about. This one is a bit strange, and I'll show you why, but let's have a look at this first. So this is the stopper for it. You can see it's got like a cylinder. It still has quite a lot of natural glass at the base, which means I don't think this has ever been cut to fit this particular stopper, and it fits nice and tight. The width of this goes with the width of the pouring lip. You've got this lovely. So this is your mallet where it just comes out and straight, curves and straight down. If it curved in, it would be called a Prussian because it's so wide, but it doesn't curve in at all. So this is either your broad-based tapered or your mallet. I still prefer mallet anyway. It's got a relatively small neck in proportion to the body. This is probably holds a litre. If you look underneath, it has a really good amount of wear, which sits on the table, which you'd expect for something that's like over 220 years old. I think this is the late 80s. If you were kind of like pushing into the dating periods, you would say this is earlier. The cutting is very flat. So yes, it looks good, but it's actually, it's barely there. You know what I mean? They've cut the least they can just to create the look. But it does have a very big, wide pontle mark cut out of it. And then this one, let me show you what's going on with this one. So this one wobbles, but the way the stopper is, can you see? It sits just on, the wear is just here at the very top. If I run my finger up it, it bulges out just here at the very top. And this is made like some of the Irish decanters where they never polished them. They just make them so they hang here at the top. If you look at where it fitted, there's hardly any fitting here. Can you see there's the grinding there? It's just a really thin piece, and that's where the decanter sits. And because it's just this bit where it hangs, where it's sitting on, I think it is creating a seal, but it's, if you bend it, it's going to move. So just because of the way it's made, I can show you an example of what I'm talking about. And that also what's make me think this is early. I have here an Irish one that's unfitted. It has a slight bulge just here. So this is not fitted, it's just made to sit just there on that bulge at the top of the decanter neck. They never cut them to fit. They were just made like that. And that one's got the same profile as this has. So, and that's what's making me think maybe that is original. It doesn't fit as tight as I'd like, but then the way it sits is like this, and the way this is fit in the bottle, it all seems to go together to be more like this than like this one here, where it's got, you can see that is a cut cylinder that's designed where that has got a cut cylinder in it, inside it, and it sits in it. This is just made to hang in the top, and that one, the one on the right here, appears to be the same. It's not an exact science, because you've got different companies in different parts of the country making things that look very similar in slightly different ways. They've got their own little ways of doing things. So yeah, so you just have to be careful and try and figure it out for yourself. Sometimes, is it right or wrong? And only by me showing you lots of different things like this, you're going to try and be able to try and work that out for yourself. So I've got a pair here. Well, not a pair, there are two more. They are actually quite different from each other. You've got this one that's beautifully cut in a very late 18th century style. You see this on a lot of Irish decanters. And then you've got, look at this. This is rather fantastic, I think. But no cutting here. Small polished pontle. Got quite a bit of wear where it sits on the table. In fact, that's a bit of dust. That's my fault. But yeah, it sits on the table on a very thin part because it's pushed in a little bit. And yeah, this is rather fantastic. And yeah, it does have a bullseye that's slightly knocked about, and looks pretty good to me. So I quite like that one. Then this one, theoretically this one's not as good. It's got 3 bladed neck rings. The stopper is really toasty, look at that. Yeah, it's got 2 chips on either side. That's probably from going over. Also, it's funny, it's got this little chip here on the neck ring. It looks, where's the one that looks like a big, yeah. It looks like it's got a big chip here, but this is actually a fault from when they put it together. So this has got bladed neck ring, and then you can see it has it says success to Congress, Jan 6, 1800. So Jan 6, yes. So that's written in the American style. I think it's an English decanter. You see how close it is to my other decanter. So I think it is an English decanter. But Congress, where does that come from? Jan 6, 1800 is the maiden voyage of the USS Congress, one of the first American flagships, American-built flagships. So, yeah. And this is, in effect, this is folk art. Someone has done this with a bit of tool. Normally they call it a nail, but they've just done it with a bit of metal and scraped this writing into the surface of it. So this is not engraved in the way that you would expect. It's just someone has scratched this in and they've done not a genius job of it. You know, this is not professional at all. This is a hand, you know, someone that doesn't do this for a living. You can just tell. Which makes it more, the fact that it's, how can I put this? Success to Congress. They've not even said USS Congress. They've just kind of like, woof, that's the name of the ship. And so they've not made it obvious what this is about, because Congress was used to describe a lot of things, American government, Congress, etc., etc., etc. But success to Congress, and then it's written in the American way, and it's really jankily done. I feel that this is original. What's great is that it's got the date on it, which helps you date these decanters in general. Yeah, because getting something with a date on really helps. It means that this was made before. Well, if it's dated, if they put the date Jan 6, 1800 on it, if that was done on January the 6th, 1800, then the decanter was made beforehand, which makes this a late 18th century decanter. There you go. We don't know how old it was in 1800, but it probably wasn't made within the 6 days before this inscription was made on it. So yeah, it's always nice to have that, so you can say, yeah, this is a late 18th century decanter. I have something else. I'm going to pull something else in to show you. I was going to do it separately, but I'm going to pull it in just to show you the bounds of this shape. I've got this one here, and look how wide that is compared to the others, and bulky. So yeah, it's a shape that's a bit, this one is very curvy, this one comes out a bit wider and holds quite a bit more than these two. Yeah, this is more like a litre. These will hold a bottle easily, but this is more like a litre, maybe close to a litre and a quarter or something like that. So I don't think it's quite a magnum, but that is a rather spacious decanter. And yeah, got a nice check stopper, nice early stopper. Again, you can see how they're all looking, can't you, with this look about them. So you got a bit of the broken pontle from the base of the decanter where they've just snapped it off, and then they've just roughed it generally. Sometimes they rough it off completely, but they've not even bothered to do that with this one. So yeah, this is a good stopper. And although they look in good nick, if you run your finger along here, I can feel that there's lots of tiny little nicks on these edges, which gives you a feeling of, yeah, this is an old one. If you run your finger along the edge here and it feels perfect and you can't feel any roughness in it at all, then you're thinking, I can't see any little chips though. There's a tiny one just there. But you can see some tiny chips there, but I can feel them with my thumbnail. In fact, listen. Yeah. I was just holding it next to the mic so that you could hear my thumbnail scratching on it. But yeah, so there is some variation in the shape. I've got one more to show you. I did say I might bring in an Irish one, and here it is. This is a dip moulded. These are usually dated 1783 to 1800. I know they made them a bit afterwards, but that's the usual dating. It's got this nice early style shallow cutting pattern on it. Then it's got bladed neck rings, and then it's got this stopper with a polished off top like this. This is something you see on some Irish decanters. I've seen it before. And underneath has the classic. The ribbing from the mould is in the base. There's no name here. There might have been, but it's not been pushed in. And then they've polished out the pontle, which normally they don't always do that, but then they've done this cutting here. So they obviously had someone that could do cutting and polishing, so they did it. But you can see the remains of the broken pontle within it, little chips and cracks and things left over. I'll show you the stopper peg. So we're back in the same story of this stopper peg. When you look at it, is it a nice early one? And yes, it is. Look how it's done. With your piece of original glass here, roughed off base. Yeah, that all fits, and it all fits nice and tight in there. So that's all good. So there we go. I'm ending on that one. So there you have it. Now, why do I keep showing you all those stopper pegs? Because if you're thinking of collecting these yourself, these are things that are over 200 years old, and the stoppers get separated from the decanters. One breaks and the others doesn't. You end up with lots of floating around. I have hundreds of stoppers down the shed myself. I do occasionally use ones, but in general, I tend not to. I try not to have to use them, and I'm always looking for, and a lot of the ones where I have used them, I've sold them on, I hate to say. I've pushed them out into the market. So I'm trying to show you how to figure out, does this stopper go with this decanter? I mean, yes, it's very nice me showing you, here's an 18th century decanter, this is the shape, this is it. But if I keep showing you enough stoppers and decanters together and how they fit and or don't fit, you'll be able to, if you're going along going, yeah, I want this one, it's 220 years old, but they want £90 for it. If the stopper's not the right one, it doesn't. If the stoppers looks good but it's not original, yeah, it may not be £90, but it's not going to be 30. If it doesn't have the right stopper at all, then it's probably only worth 30, you know, and you can pick them up for that. It might be you're like me, who's very patient, who's been collecting for nearly 35 years. This is what I've pulled together, and I've been paying £25–30, maybe even less, sometimes maybe 15, quite often 15. But I'm very patient, and you might not be so patient. You might want to put your hand in your pocket and buy something, and you want it to be right if you're going to be putting your hand in your pocket and buying it. So that's why I'm trying to pass that knowledge on a bit, so you know what you're buying. You don't get stumped with something that's not what it seems to be. And also, you've seen the sort of like range of stoppers that go with this type of decanter, the mallet types, because the mallet types are an earlier shape. As you get into the 19th century, we get into Prussian decanters. I will do Prussian decanters at some point. I've been out and filmed somewhere, so I'm going to do that first. But I will come back. I'm going to do Sugarloafs, and I'm going to do Prussians. Prussians are later. Sugarloafs are earlier. So I'm dodging backwards and forwards because Sugarloafs are probably earlier than any of the ones I'm showing you. The tapereds and all of those. But anyway, yes, I am going to cover the other shapes, and you can see the stoppers that I've got with them and what I think of those stoppers and whether they're always right or not. Yes, because that is important if you're collecting. And if you're thinking, I'm just buying it to use it, as long as the stopper fits tight enough, I can stick it on my dining room table and go, look at this, it's over 200 years old. And you're happy with that, and everybody else is happy with it. Anyway, I've used a bunch of sales links that I'm not going to include those as references. I did use Scottish Antiques. I'll include Scottish Antiques as a reference because they're always a good reference. The others I'm less certain of. And anyway, with that said, I'm going to wrap up because this might be quite long. I think I've spent quite a lot of time on those decanters. So thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe because it helps my channel. And have a good night. Good night.